the affordable housing plan, President William Ruto has assured the country, yet again, that he's going to transform Kibera slum into an estate before the end of his term in office. Now the question is, that sounds so sweet, but is it viable and feasible enough? That is the conversation that we are going to have today on Business Glide, your go-to point on matters business, public policy, and economics at large. I'm yours truly, Richard Mwanju. Always a pleasure. Now to unpack and make sense of that conversation is none other than East Africa's renowned public scholar, Herman Manyora. Great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Richard.
You've been out of town for quite a while.
Yes.
Where to though? The village?
Countryside.
Countryside.
Yes.
Trying to acquaint yourself
with the time and the money to enjoy the leisure of visiting the countryside.
You're among the privileged few.
Yes.
Finally, you've admitted to be a big boy.
No, I'm not a big boy, but I'm just, God has blessed me. I can afford a holiday of 50,000.
Oh, 50,000.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
Very well. Straight into the conversation. So, our darling President William Ruto has yet again brought hope among many Kenyans through his words, and his latest sentiments were he's going to transform Kibera slums before the end of his tenure and make it into an estate and give people dignified living. It is not the first time we are seeing attempts to upgrade Kibera slums into an estate or into a better dignified residential area. But many Kenyans don't feel if that is feasible enough. And I'm asking, what has always come in the way of transforming Kibera other times? Because this is not the first attempt. What could be the reason why we are still here talking about it?
First of all, President Manyora, if I'm president, and I've said this on a number of, being president for 5 years, at the very most 10, the lowest estate in Nairobi will be Buruburu. Anything below that will be, I'll put it down. So leave alone Kibera. Those things you see, Kayole, where I'll pull all of those down.
Mukuru kwa jenga down?
Wacha Mukuru, I'm saying even Kayole, even Umoja. The poorest estate will be Buruburu and above. Anything below Buruburu, I'll rest to the ground.
Through more housing tax?
So, no, zero tax. So, it is possible. And I'm happy and excited to hear the president say he wants to do it. It is possible. But now to your question, there have been attempts, not just in this country, but in other countries. Why has it failed?
That's the question.
If you mean Kibaki and Raila, then that is laughable. That was a big joke. There's few miserable houses they put across hapo kunaitwa Raila. You want to allocate, at that time people were saying Kibera was home to 700,000 people, which is of course, the census showed that was a big lie. They say Kibera was the biggest slum in Africa or in the world, whatever they meant. Figures say maybe 200,000. Let's say Kibera has, let's be very generous to the people of small thinking. Because these guys have, if they think at all, it's very small thinking. But I doubt they think at all. Let's say we have 50,000 families. Or even 10,000 families. Only. Families, not people. Just families, 10,000.
Households.
Households. And you begin to erect 1,000 houses, 800 houses. And it takes you 3 years to do so. At what point were they going to settle the Kibera residents? After 200,000 years? After 300 years? After 100 years? What sort of thinking is that? That you want to relocate Kibera, to give them decent houses, and you are doing 1,000 houses in 3 years, 2,000 houses in 3 years. You can see how stupid it is. And you people tell me not to use this word stupid. This is stupid thinking. Because it can't work. You know, this country can only develop on ideas.
Quality ideas.
Thinking. This country will move from the dirty, poor country it is to a serious country where people live decent lives. Driven on big thinking.
Do you consider bringing
not cheap thinking?
Very well.
Deep, serious
thinking.
Big thinking.
I want to ascertain if this is part of that.
And I can tell you how I can move Kibra within 2, 3, 4 years. Not that. They are not prepared for that.
You're going to do that.
They want to do the same, walk the same journey. Where even taking care of those who are there, even when they want to do like in Sharumoyo, they have chased poor, miserable people who are born there, whose parents were born there. Chase them, that go, live here, live, tokeni hapa Sharumoyo, tuko naitanga Shauri, shilingi 10 kutoka hapo. Tukiwa Jericho tunatembea mpaka Shauri ni shilingi 10 kuja town. Zamani ilikuwa 50 cents. Where vehicles stand and cheap.
True.
People, their parents were born there. They have been told to leave so that the place is developed. And then they will be considered. Look at that kind of thinking, if you can call it thinking.
Not deep, not serious, not
it's not thinking at all.
Not thinking at all.
Why can that person do an estate somewhere, relocate these people, even if it's temporarily there, then come and develop Shaurimoyo, then bring those people back, and then allocate the remaining houses to other people? Even simple things like in Madare 4, something they were doing, even to identify who are the so-called slum owners, structure owners or landlords, and the tenants. If we want to, there are 500 people here living here in a slum, okay? 5 houses, we call them houses, eh? Maybe they are just 10 by 10.
Sure.
Who will be on the list of the people we are going to allocate? Even that alone they can't do. So, how can you deal with Kibra? They cannot. Even if you gave, I'm sorry to say this, these people with this level of thinking, live alone 10 years. If you gave them 1,000 years, they will not.
They won't transform it into an estate?
Because you should ask me how I would do it.
All right, we're coming to that in just a few. But I want to ascertain if this is part of your deep, big thinking.
Yes.
What was brought forth by President William Ruto's vision, that is onboarding the housing tax.
Yes.
And from where you sit, would you then say maybe increasing capitation towards that program is now going to bring it into full reality someday, increasing our allocation to the housing agenda?
That's where you get it wrong, because you are collecting money for people to eat. The moment you bring money into the picture, nothing will happen. So government should stop taxing people for housing. Government does not need 1 shilling for housing. 1. The government does not need 1 shilling. The moment you bring money on the table like they are getting, people bring all their greed. Instead of developing houses, they will be scheming how to eat these billions. So this money is for people to eat, not to develop houses. So if you want to develop houses in this city, there should be no money involved. Government should stop taxing people and then ask Manyora, come, we want houses. I will not lie to them. I will do 200 the way they are saying.
200,000
I may do more or less. How many have they done so far? That approach can't work. Government is collecting money to give who? Money, those houses are supposed to be developed by private sector. How does government collect money when private players are supposed to be doing their housing is a business. Developers are going to develop houses and sell them. They will only be cheaper because government will make certain facilities possible. Government will make land available, and government does not need to buy land at all, not now. If government will have to buy land, it will be 10, 15, 20 years from now, not now. As we speak now, government has more land than it needs. We may need to buy land maybe 50 years from now, 100 years, but for now, government has more land than you can actually utilize for building houses.
And that's it.
So government does not need money.
It doesn't.
I'm waiting for you to ask me how.
We'll get there in just a few.
Yes.
But the question I'm asking right now is, there are those who are decrying that we are seeing runaway inflation, making them not even afford the most essential of commodities. And my question is, do you consider it a case of misplaced priorities on the side of government? Because people are asking, you build us houses, make it into an estate, but you're going to go to bed with an empty stomach. So do you feel they should go in tandem, addressing the high cost of living and also transforming Kibera into an estate?
You know, government should first ask experts the difference between houses and housing.
Sure.
I've seen even government trying to spend billions to build markets
True.
Have you seen those stimulus markets all over the country? Are they being used by those women? No. So you are trying to satisfy a need which is not there. Maybe. So if you addressed whether Kenyans needed houses, then the question will be, what kind of Kenyan? What house? Why? When? How will they pay for it? Those questions will come. But you just want houses, structures. And I will invite government to go to Angola. I will invite government to go to South Africa. And they will see there were ambitious housing programs. And nobody entered those houses.
No one did?
Yes. So they should also address those issues. Because there are also socio-cultural factors you must consider. If you are going to have a concrete jungle of 50,000 houses, how many people in our context will want to live there?
Very few. So,
a person who is wrestling with the issue of food, food, like you say, a conversation around housing is a strange conversation.
A strange one.
They won't even sit down to listen to you.
They won't.
Mtu ako na shida ya njaa na mtoto hajaenda shule na unamwambia tukae chini tuongee vile utakuwa na nyumba. Why can't government ask itself, how come an economy the size of Kenya, there are less than 30,000 people on mortgage?
The uptake is quite low, yeah, sure.
About 29,000. That should get government sitting and asking, oh, Kenya, with this level of development, this level of education, less than 30,000 mortgages, there's something wrong there. Either people don't value townhouses or priorities or pressing needs or incomes. Government should first have answered those questions. Then they would arrive at whether Kenyans need houses, who among Kenyans need houses, where do they need those houses. There are many people who will tell you, please, mimi Nairobi, mimi ni mpita njia, mimi ni mtu wa Lombei. Saidia mimi nijenge nyumba yangu Lombei. And I will be on that scheme very happily. You think you can go and put a house in Mandera, people will come inside?
They won't. But then again, so that we don't have a case of migrating into another slum, because there are those who are decrying the high cost of living, those many dwelled in Kibera, and they're saying if President William Ruto is going to push through his agenda of transforming into an estate, most of them will actually not even afford the most essential commodities, and they're going to relocate now to say Mukuru Kwajenge and other new slums that will now sprout up. Do you really see this as a condition that has some sense that we're going to see some migration of slum to other places?
You see, if you don't understand the problem and you set out to try and do something about it, you'll end up with what the government is doing. Even estates where government has tried to put city council, I think government, and have tried to put up houses like California, Majengo, for this. How many of the original owners are in those houses?
They rented them.
This one is Kibera. How many people of Kibera are in those houses? And it's not Kenya alone. This has been tried elsewhere. You give somebody a good house, this 2-bedroom. The best he can do is to rent out 1 bedroom here, baki kwa moja. But a majority of them will give somebody that house, all of it, and go back where they were. If you have demolished it, like you say, they will establish a
new slum somewhere else.
So where is the thinking in government? Where is the thinking?
Zero thinking. So then again, with President William
and you see some people sweating,
explaining the
in
plan.
charge of this housing thing, and they are sweating and they are talking. They want to bang the table. You look at this and say, this is a joke.
You seem to be quite knowledgeable on probably the avenues you can use to address the housing issue and bring dignity in terms of the shelters many Kenyans are domiciled in. And my question is, as now the President of Kenya, someday maybe, because you said you are in that seat,
yes,
how different will you do it?
You see, you ask yourself, how did the slums develop in Kenya? First of all, slum is a product of joblessness. So if you create jobs, you have Kenyans who can afford decent housing. Secondly, slums is a product of rural-urban migration. So if you can do something to stem rural-urban migration, you will deal slums a dead blow. With devolution, if devolution were to work, rural-urban migration will reduce significantly. But now, in practical terms, you are in Nairobi, and over 80% of the people live in these things they call slums. What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do? It's a question. The people who live in slums live there so that they may go and perhaps work. If you look at Mukuru kwa Njenga, Pipeline, Kware, and I've had interest in those areas, people who live in those slums service the airport, the flower industry, and so on and so forth. And they work for those cargo handling companies, Twanzami, there used to be Twanzami and the rest, cargo freight, all those kind of things. So, are there industries that you can remove from Nairobi? Between Ngong and Mai Mahiu, if you stand on the Ngong hills and throw your eyes yonder across
the horizon,
you see those dishes. You'll be able to see those dishes, satellite dishes, big ones, big like houses. That's around on your way to around Mai Mahiu, okay? On your way to Narok. All that land is idle. Government can transform that land into habitation by simply providing the incentives for people to transfer their industries in those areas, production in those areas, and giving services, putting schools and everything else you need.
Social amenities.
And you'll find 50% of the people in Nairobi are not even there.
In Mai Mahiu.
If you go towards Thika, you'll find people are growing trees in the metropolis. See, Nairobi links up to Thika.
True.
There are people growing commercial trees when Kenyans are living in slums in Thika, in Kiandutu, in Kibra, in Madari. And somebody is growing trees. I'm coming to my point. Somebody has thousands of acres growing pineapples. Pineapples. And the people around there are living in halls like animals, like dogs, worse than dogs. Are you telling me as president I cannot allocate Del Monte? I can't allocate them good land
somewhere else
suitable for pineapple growing? I can't allocate Kakuzi, suitable land for animal breeding and the tree growing.
Avocado.
I'll do it. I'll do it, and they will be happy. They will not be any happy, because we shall sit down and look at a suitable alternative. Now, I want to drive the point home now. With land made available, even before you go to the far off land in Mai Mahiu, Ngong there, even in Nairobi here, from the prisons, Langata prisons, Kibra, Southern Bypass, Ngong Road. You see that forest there?
Vast land there.
Ololua. When you see the forest you are seeing outside, inside there are no trees. People have cut the trees.
People are living there in?
Yeah, we are pretending it's a forest, it's not a forest.
Wow.
If you excise all that place up to Ngong or Ololua, those are thousands of acres of land. If government sat down with developers, I've been a slum lord, I also know. You sit down with the developers, there will be no Kibra in 5 years. 5 years there will be no Kibra. Just avail that land from Langata prison, Magadi Road, Bomas of Kenya, Ngong Road, Southern Bypass, pouring all the way around Karen KBC there, all the way to Ololua Ngong. That government forest land, which people have been eating anyway.
Behind
Remember,
the scenes.
People, some of it has been gazetted, what, blah, blah, blah. By the bullet. I don't want to touch Nairobi National Park because I'm going to touch a saw. But if I'm the president, of course, that's where I'll go. But let me not touch there now.
Oh, sure.
Just this forest. For every one tree that is in this forest, we have the capacity to grow 1,000 elsewhere, even around here. So let nobody make noise. If you open up that space alone with the developers, not these rich developers, average developers, people who have put up houses in Mukuru Kwanjenga, Kibra, those landlords, let's call them landlords, those middle level people who understand this, you give them designs that are not very ambitious, that are not very expensive, but to certain standards. Then you do the roads. The roads are not being done for free. Sewage is not for free. Power is not for free. Government is only guaranteeing that once the project is over and you are charging your rent, and we have a standard rent you will charge. So enter in knowing you will not charge your own rent. Once you have settled, you begin to return to repay the money for infrastructure, the money for roads, for sewage, for power, and all those kind of things.
Water supply and all.
Yeah, there would have been a financier. Government has only guaranteed. Government has not spent 1 shilling. Do you know there will be no Kibra in 5 years? All these people will go there, all of them, and they will live in good houses. Because at that time, if you try to have your slum, nobody will go there. Because those houses will be charging like 3, 4, 5,000, maximum 10. Why would somebody come in Kibra? And that's just one project. There will be, I've mentioned the other areas in this city which government is sitting on land, but slowly people are encroaching on that land. People are encroaching on that land. Slowly. Finally you find private developers have. There was government land around Carnival. Is it private anymore? Even the university had land there. It has gone. It has been taken 100 acres. It's gone. Supposing government had been honest and given it free to developers, on condition there's only one prototype you use. You put up a house like this, 5-storied, no more, no less, or 4-storied, so that we don't go into lifts. 4-storied, no more, no less. Charges will be this. That place will be full of nice houses, but now it's occupied by private developers. That's how you can solve the problem. Anything else will not work. At all, government is going to develop 2,000 houses. Government is giving developers money.
Incentives to build.
Oh, I hear they are bidding. Bidding for what? It can't work.
Deep thinking, big thinking.
You need big thinking. You need people who have some love for the country. People who look at this country and say, today I'm enjoying, I'm calling the shots, I'm a minister. Tomorrow my daughter will not be a minister. 10 years from now, my granddaughter may have failed Form 4 and is a hustler. What kind of life would my hustler granddaughter live?
She needs dignity.
With dignity. She may not live in Lavington like me. But can she live somewhere decent?
Sure.
Because not all your grandchildren will live in your house.
True.
And they'll be married if they are girls. Your grandson will not come to live in your house with your grandson-in-law.
Sure.
Can they afford a decent house?
They can, but that will come at a price.
Okay.
That the country should pay, right?
Correct.
Very well, there you have it from Herman Manyora. We've been talking matters, the affordable housing plan by the government of the day, and also President William Ruto's ambitious plan to transform Kibera slum into an estate before the end of his term. So that is the conversation we've had. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our fan of the week is Isaac Ruto from Tenai.
Isaac Ruto from Tenai.
A forester.
A forester?
Yeah, sure.
I grew up in the forest. Thank you very much.
All right, asante sana Isaac Ruto.
He would know Turbo Forest.
Ah.
I grew up there. Yeah.
Ah, good, good, good. You are the child of the village. You've grown in different parts of the country.
Yes.
Very
That's
well.
why I'm a nationalist.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And a global citizen.
Correct.
We're waiting to see more of your visits internationally. Yeah. So until next time on Business Glide, have yourself a good day and watch other shows on the channel with Jadil Kabiro, Evans Okenyi and Mundia Gitao.